There is a root your grandmother pulled from the earth every winter, a staple with creamy flesh and a hint of oyster that hardly anyone under 60 has ever tasted. Salsify once filled seed catalogs and kept families fed in hard times, but supermarkets erased it from our tables. Now its flavor, history, and resilience teeter on the brink of extinction. How did such a unique crop vanish so completely? And why does its loss matter more than most of us realize? Salsify is a root that never catches the eye at first glance. Long and slender, often twisted or forked, it looks like a pale, rough-skinned parsnip pulled from the far edge of the garden. Beneath that humble exterior lies a creamy, delicate flesh that when cooked carries the faint taste of oysters, a flavor that once earned it the nickname oyster plant in kitchens across Europe and America. Two kinds of salsify have shaped its story. White salsify, known to botanists as Tragopogon porifolius, traces its roots back to the eastern Mediterranean. Its skin is tan or ivory, the flesh inside smooth and white, and it is the variety most often remembered in old American gardens. Black salsify, or scorzonera. Scorzonera hispanica originated in Spain and Eastern Europe. Its skin is dark and almost woody, the interior a gentle yellow. Black salsify tends to be sweeter, with a more pronounced oyster note, and it yields more reliably in the field. Both types share the same basic shape, a root about as thick as a finger, sometimes straight, sometimes crooked, never quite matching the tidy uniformity of supermarket carrots or parsnips. What sets salsify apart is not just its root. The entire plant is edible. Young shoots picked in spring are tender and mild, cooked like asparagus or tossed raw into salads. The flower buds, tightly closed, can be steamed or sautéed. Even the blossoms, soft purple or pale lilac like oversized dandelions, add color to a plate. Gardeners prized salsify for this whole plant usefulness, especially in times when every bit of food mattered. When roasted, mashed, or simmered into soups, salsify's flavor is subtle and creamy, with an edge that brings to mind the sea. This taste comes not from the ocean, but from the minerals the plant draws up from deep soil, calcium, potassium, and trace elements that linger after frost has sweetened the root. In the days before easy access to seafood, salsify offered landlocked families a rare echo of oysters right from their own backyard. Botanists still recognize salsify as part of the daisy family, related to dandelions and sunflowers. Its seeds float away on feathery parachutes just like a dandelion's, making it easy to save for next year's planting. In the garden, its grass-like leaves and purple blooms are a quiet reminder of a time when variety and flavor mattered more than looks. Salsify's shape and taste may be unusual by today's standards, but for generations, that oddness was its strength, a root that could feed a family through the leanest months and a flavor that brought a hint of the sea to the heart of the land. In the days when most families kept a kitchen garden, salsify earned its place not by looks, but by reliability. Its greatest gift was its ability to overwinter in the ground. While other vegetables shriveled or spoiled in the cellar, salsify could be left right where it grew, safe beneath a blanket of soil. When winter meals ran thin and the world outside was frozen, a gardener could step out with a spade and dig up fresh roots, no matter how bleak the season. This was a kind of insurance against hunger, a promise that something nourishing waited just below the surface, ready whenever it was needed. Seed catalogs from the late 19th century and the early 20th century treated salsify as a staple. The Burpee catalog from 1912, a household name in American gardening, described varieties like Mammoth Sandwich Island with pride, promising long, tender roots and a dependable harvest. Year after year, these catalogs listed salsify alongside carrots, beets, and parsnips, signaling its status as an essential part of the home garden. The names alone, White French, Giant Mammoth, Sandwich Island, hint at a time when gardeners valued subtle differences in flavor and form. And when the act of choosing seeds was a ritual that shaped the family table for months to come. For families living far from the coast, salsify offered something rare, a taste that echoed oysters, even when seafood was out of reach. Recipes from the 1930s, clipped from home economics pamphlets or scribbled in the margins of battered cookbooks, called for salsify in stews, mashes, and fritters. During the Great Depression, when money was tight and every meal counted, salsify's ability to thrive with little care made it invaluable. A 10-foot row could feed a family through the winter, and its roots could be dug whenever the soil was not frozen. No irrigation was needed, no fancy fertilizers, just patience and a patch of earth. Gardeners passed down not just seeds, but the know-how to coax salsify through the seasons. Saving seed was as simple as letting the purple blooms go to fluff, then gathering the parachute-like seeds on a dry day. Children learned to peel the roots underwater to keep them from turning brown, a trick handed down from mothers and grandmothers who remembered leaner times. In letters and family stories, salsify was remembered not as a luxury, but as a steady companion, a vegetable that filled the gap when little else would grow and brought a hint of something special to the plainest meal. By the 1950s, salsify was still a fixture in seed catalogs, but its presence was fading. The world was changing, gardens shrinking, tastes shifting as supermarkets began to shape what people ate. Yet, in the memory of those who lived through hard winters and lean years, salsify remains a symbol of resilience, the root that waited patiently in the cold, and the flavor that made even the simplest meal feel rich. Supermarkets built their produce aisles around speed, uniformity, and shelf appeal. Salsify, with its thin, knobby roots and unpredictable shapes, never stood a chance. Unlike carrots or potatoes, these roots do not line up neatly in crates. They twist, fork, and break easily. Each harvest brings a jumble of sizes, some as thick as a finger, others no wider than a pencil. Packing them for transport is a headache, and stacking them for display is nearly impossible. Washing salsify is another ordeal. The skin clings to soil and the roots bruise with rough handling. Even after careful scrubbing, the pale flesh underneath stays hidden until the first cut. The moment a knife slices through, salsify reacts with air, turning from creamy white to dull gray in seconds. In a home kitchen, this is not a problem. Cooks learned to peel the roots underwater or drop them straight into a bowl of lemony brine. But in a supermarket, gray and streaked roots are death to sales. Shoppers expect perfect produce, not something that looks tired before it even leaves the store. Shelf life is another stumbling block. Salsify was meant to stay in the ground until needed, not to sit in a warehouse or ride cross-country in a truck. Pulled too soon, it shrivels quickly. Left too long, it grows tough. There is no window for mass distribution, no way to guarantee that every root will look fresh and inviting days after harvest. Time, too, works against it. Salsify takes at least 120 days to reach full size, sometimes more. Modern farming runs on tight schedules, favoring crops that fill a field and leave it ready for the next planting in a matter of weeks. Salsify's slow pace means fewer harvests per year, less profit per acre, and more risk for growers. All these quirks add up. Supermarket buyers want vegetables that are easy to wash, stack, ship, and sell. Salsify refuses to fit the mold. Its roots do not match, its flesh stains at the first touch of air, and its growing season drags on for months. No major food company stepped in to solve these problems or to sell salsify's story. In the end, the vegetable that once thrived in backyard plots became a casualty of the grocery aisle, passed over in favor of crops that could be polished, packaged, and lined up in perfect rows. As salsify vanished from the market, the loss extended far beyond a single root. The quiet disappearance of this vegetable triggered a slow erosion of seed diversity. A century ago, gardeners could choose from a handful of distinct salsify varieties: Mammoth Sandwich Island, White French, Black Scorzonera, each with its own subtle flavor, and growing habit. Today, only a few of these names survive in the catalogs of heirloom seed suppliers. The rest have slipped away, their seeds unplanted and their flavors forgotten. This narrowing of variety is not just a story about salsify. It is a pattern repeated across the garden whenever a crop falls out of favor. When supermarkets decided which vegetables deserved shelf space, the old lines of salsify shrank to a trickle. Varieties that had weathered centuries of storms and droughts, passed from hand to hand, disappeared in a matter of decades. What once filled seed drawers and garden rows became rare, then extinct. The loss is not only genetic, it is cultural. For generations, the skills needed to grow, harvest, and cook salsify traveled quietly through families. Children learned to spot the feathery seed heads and to save them for next spring. Grandparents showed how to dig roots in frozen ground and how to peel them in a bowl of water to keep their color. Recipes, stews, fritters, mashed roots with butter lived in memory, scribbled in margins, or shared at kitchen tables. As salsify slipped away, so did these lessons. Today, few home cooks know what to do with a salsify root, even if they find one. The knowledge gap widens with every passing season. Seed saving itself has become a lost art. Where once gardeners harvested and winnowed their own seed, most now rely on packets from distant companies. The old practice of selecting the best roots for next year, preserving the traits that fit a particular patch of soil, has faded. With every lost variety, the garden grows a little less resilient, a little less responsive to change. The disappearance of salsify from gardens and markets is more than a change in what is for dinner. It is a break in the chain that once linked generations to the land, to each other, and to a living tradition of food. The seeds that remain are a fragile inheritance, one that can vanish if not planted, tended, and remembered. Heirloom salsify seeds still circulate quietly, traded in brown envelopes between gardeners or ordered from specialty seed houses. Names like Mammoth Sandwich Island or Black Scorzonera appear in the slim catalogs of Seed Savers Exchange and a handful of old world suppliers. These are the same strains that once filled kitchen gardens across the country, waiting for a patch of earth and a patient hand. Growing salsify begins in the earliest days of spring, as soon as the soil can be worked. The seeds, flat and feathered, are pressed an inch deep into loose, well-drained ground, with rows spaced wide and each seedling thinned to 4 inches apart. Salsify asks for soil that has been loosened as deep as a spade will go. Heavy clay or stones will twist and fork the roots, but sandy loam lets them stretch straight and long. Compost worked into the bed gives a gentle boost, but salsify thrives with little else. No fancy fertilizers, no need for irrigation, just sun, time, and space to grow. Patience is the real price. Salsify takes at least 120 days to reach full size, sometimes more. While other crops rush to the table, it sits quietly underground, drawing up minerals and sweetening with every cold night. Gardeners who know its ways sow a row in March or April and forget it until the leaves begin to yellow in late autumn. There is no rush to harvest. The roots keep perfectly in the ground through winter, protected by a layer of mulch or straw. When the world outside is frozen and the pantry shelves are bare, a spadeful of earth yields fresh salsify, roots crisp and pale, ready for the kitchen. For those willing to wait, salsify offers a kind of quiet reward. The act of planting and tending it is less about instant results and more about reconnecting to a slower rhythm, one that values flavor over speed. Each seed saved and sown is a small act of preservation, a vote for diversity in a world that prizes sameness. The knowledge lives on, handed down by seed savers and gardeners who remember what it means to grow food for the long haul. Fresh salsify, dug from under a layer of straw in the heart of winter, brings a quiet satisfaction to the kitchen. The roots, still cold from the earth, need only a gentle rinse to shed the last of their clinging soil. Gardeners who remember the old ways know to keep a bowl of water close at hand. The moment salsify is peeled, its creamy flesh reacts with air, turning gray in seconds. Submerging the roots as they're trimmed preserves their color and keeps the flavor pure, a simple trick passed down through generations. Cooking salsify is an act of patience and reward. Sliced into coins, the roots soften quickly in a pot of simmering broth, their subtle flavor deepening with butter, herbs, or a splash of cream. Mashed with salt and pepper, roasted until the edges caramelize, or battered and fried as golden fritters, salsify transforms into dishes that hint at oysters and the sea. Old cookbooks offer recipes for salsify soup, gratins, and even mock oyster stew, a taste of luxury from the humblest root. In many communities, salsify was more than just a winter staple. Neighbors traded seeds in envelopes marked with careful handwriting, or swapped roots over garden fences when the ground thawed. The act of sharing salsify, whether as a handful of seeds, a basket of roots, or a favorite recipe, kept the tradition alive. Garden clubs and seed exchanges still carry on this quiet network, connecting cooks and growers who value flavor over fashion. Even today, a single packet of heirloom seed can yield dozens of roots, enough to fill a family table and offer extras to friends. Each winter harvest, each shared meal becomes a small act of preservation. The knowledge, how to dig, peel, cook, and save seed travels by word of mouth and by memory, ready to be picked up again by anyone willing to taste what's been nearly forgotten. The supermarket did not just narrow our choices, it narrowed our memory of what food can be. Salsify's absence is a reminder that convenience often comes at the cost of diversity. As global seed catalogs shrink, each forgotten crop is a flavor lost forever. The next chapter in our food story is written in every garden we revive. What will you choose to plant back into memory?